King of Podcasts, proudly presents The Broadcasters Podcast, a weekly media commentary talking about traditional and digital media headlines and talking to the content creators out front and behind the scenes. Here is the King of Podcasts.
Thanks for joining me for another Broadcasters Podcast, episode 142. Thank you for joining me. No interview tonight. My whole thing is, I've been feeling good without the interviews. We've had so much to talk about on this program that it's been pretty easy to find stories to build up, get some research, put it together throughout the week, and put a show together. So I've been really enjoying this, but I do want to keep myself open for any interviews out there. So if any of you know of anyone that would be a good guest for the program, email me, kingofpodcasts@yahoo.com, kingofpodcasts@yahoo.com. There's a couple of people I'm looking at right now to bring on for interviews, but at the moment I've really had so much work. If I feel like there's a point where we get a little bit tied down, maybe towards the holiday season, I might bring on a few other guests on just to go and kind of fill the time all the way going up into the start of the year. So I might consider that, but right now things are pretty busy. And, you know, it's not even talking about television. I'm not talking about like new seasons of TV or any kind of content, because content comes out new all the time. So there's really nothing about that. But there is some things when it comes to media deregulation that continues to happen. So the companies and the corporations that continue to own all these different properties that have been individual and have been legacy and have amazing reputations and histories of their own, two of them have been brought together under the same banner. And that's what we're going to talk about to start off tonight. Billboard and Rolling Stone are now part of the same company. So let's get into the story that actually happened. This actually happened last week. I didn't get a chance to report this on last week's Broadcasters Podcast, but we're going to bring it up now because more has come up about it. Penske Media Corporation, the parent company of Rolling Stone, Variety, and Music Business Worldwide, among other media publications, announced last week a new joint venture with MRC, the company that operates Billboard, Vibe, The Hollywood Reporter, and more. So their joint venture will find Penske taking over daily operations of Billboard, The Hollywood Reporter, and Vibe. Additionally, there's a second joint venture which will partner with Penske Media Corporation to focus on the, quote, the mining the collective brand intellectual property across all of its content divisions, including TV, film, live, and alternative and nonfiction, according to Billboard. So that's huge. Under the same umbrella, you also have Dick Clark Productions. That's also under this as well. So it was back in 2018 where Valence Media brought together Billboard, Hollywood Reporter, Vibe, and Dick Clark Productions, and then was rebranded to MRC. So again, the deregulation has come into play, and we continue to see the same thing over and over. What does that mean for these magazines? You know, when they start coming together, it's mostly a monetary ploy, because we know Billboard and we know Rolling Stone had to go through their own issues of layoffs in the last 4 or 5 years, as have many other publications. I mean, the one thing that really helps out most, that really is a difference for these two, talk about Rolling Stone and Billboard. These are two mainstream music publications going back. I mean, Billboard's been like over a century. And as for Rolling Stone, I forget how far back it goes. But I'm just saying to myself, it's so much there about how far they go back. 1967 in San Francisco was Rolling Stone's first issue, November 9th. Rolling Stone has 700,000 readers or subscribers at the. Billboard goes back to 1894. And at their time right now, 17,000 magazines per week are shipped out. So that's where we are. I mean, again, Rolling Stone's more of a mainstream mag, but Billboard is the industry mag, but also gets a lot of praise. And also remember, these two companies were both doing charts. Just last year, Rolling Stone decided to create their own charts. For whatever reason they did, that was a decision they made. And it's been a little bit different, but that has not gotten the kind of attention that Billboard does. It's like in the UK having official charts getting a competitor. It doesn't make any sense. And, you know, when you look at the industry of radio, media base has no relevance much at all. It's just a factor into the methodology of the Billboard charts. But Billboards continue to do things more when it comes to their charts. Where we talked about the Global 200, which is a version of the chart which includes the U.S. charts, and then one without. And that's a new thing they started doing. But again, a lot of their podcasts, some of them they took down. The staff has taken a bit of a hit. And they put a lot more stuff behind the paywall. It's unfortunate, but that's what they decided to do. So again, cost-cutting measures. And again, it's the company that owns Rolling Stone, Variety, and Music Business Worldwide that decided to buy the company that owns Billboard, Hollywood Reporter, and others. That's what they decided to go do. So we move along into the story. There was some commentary that was brought up about this because people are asking, what does it mean for music fans by this happening? Well, Pitchfork.com was where I originally took the story of the actual news. So there's a story that follows up this week, which Anagaka wrote about, saying, for one thing, music media may become more like the music industry itself. So here's what she says. The new company PMRC, which will then unite Penske Media Corporation and Media Rights Capital, or formerly MRC. Remember, MRC owns the publications Rolling Stone, Variety, Deadline, IndieWire, Music Business Worldwide, among others. Penske, and that's for Penske. Billboard, Hollywood Reporter, and Vibe with MRC. So you're consolidating most of the music and entertainment publications. This is the bulk of them. This is the bulk of the companies I look at for news every week for this program. They are the industry rags. They have now been combined and consolidated. I don't know if that's good or not. I never did like all this going on. Again, I'm not a fan of deregulation to this level. Like, I understand companies wanting to buy stations that they can, control in several markets. But the amount of stations all these people own, these stations, or these companies, they all own these stations, or these magazines for this matter, it's just too much. I don't like it at all. Deadline reported today, and here is the bad news of deregulation. It always happens. I just thank iHeartRadio for this kind of thought process of being a corporate company. Oh, well, when you get a merger like this, yeah, we're going to get layoffs. MRC will lay off approximately 50 people as a result, mostly in operations. And there was already an earlier round of layoffs in April because of the pandemic. Penske will own 80% of the new company. So basically, MRC is just a minor factor. They're not owning anything. This is a joint venture. It's just basically, it's a takeover. I mean, eventually, Penske will buy the whole damn thing. Are they going to act like an equity media partner and basically just be able to go and take the equity, take the value of these publications? Because I think that's what it's more for them anyway. Hollywood Reporter, Billboard, those are the ones that you really have there is a lot of capital behind those publications. Billboard is very important to the legacy of the music industry. It's vital, I would like to think. The Hollywood Reporter, I think, is the same way for Hollywood, for entertainment and show business, for what they do. It is the voice of the agencies, the writers, the unions, so many other things. Now, I will admit, every time I look at Variety or Deadline or the Hollywood Reporter, I get some of the same headlines, or same stories. Some of, there's a little bit of assimilation here, some similarities in stories, a lot of parallelism, sure. So the joint venture appears to represent a specialization of strengths. Penske operates a range of consumer-facing and industry-focused publications in print and online, taking over operations of Billboard, Hollywood Reporter, and Vibe. MRC will focus on adapting various brands' existing IP to other formats. So the thing is, the operations portion is going to be handled by Penske, which they probably think will do a better job of handling the day-to-day for the magazines. Well, meanwhile, the brands will be utilized by MRC. So MRC's out of the magazine business, but they're still in the branding and marketing business for these brands to use them for other things. Okay. This is said to be a potentially lucrative strategy to cash in on every part of a franchise, from the first magazine article to the eventual merchandising rights. Now, let's get back to the point of what this means for the music industry because of the importance of what Rolling Stone magazine and Billboard magazine represent. Chris Malanphy, a Slate columnist and longtime chart watcher who hosts the Hit Parade podcast, he compares this to the 2010 merger of Live Nation and Ticketmaster, which was criticized for placing corporate concert venues, major artist tours, and consumer ticketing in contractual lockstep. Quote, their argument at the time when the music industry was about a decade into its downturn after Napster was, yes, we may have a significant chunk of live music, but the entire music business is facing challenges in all directions. On a much smaller scale, he says, I imagine Penske and MRC will make a similar argument. The music business is on an upswing now, but music media is challenging in the 21st century. So we need scale. We need to get bigger to effectively compete. Well, the company might be getting bigger, but it doesn't mean that the operations or the resources are going to get any bigger. Instead, they're downsizing, as we see. 50 employees are going away after this. Probably knew that was going to, but the writing was on the wall last week, but now it is right here. And unfortunately, some good reporters, some good people behind the scenes that probably do a great job at Billboard, they're going to get let go. Same thing for Hollywood Reporter, same thing for Vibe Magazine. It's unfortunate. Now, they go ahead and talk more about all the issues that are going on. They also make mention of the launching of their own charts, Rolling Stone, to compete with Billboard. And Billboard, and then also both of them, they went ahead and beefed up industry-facing coverage, installing paywalls. To power the Rolling Stones charts, Penske acquired a stake in BuzzAngle Music, now Alpha Data, which tracks music sales and streaming, much like Billboard's MRC Data, formerly Nielsen SoundScan. Both sets of charts are under the same roof now. Malanphy goes on and says, quote, I can't imagine that it makes sense for Rolling Stone to have a competing chart, but Billboard has such an array of charts. Perhaps the Rolling Stone formula will exist side by side with the Hot 100 and provide a different view. We don't need the Rolling Stone chart. We don't need it. It doesn't make much of a difference. It doesn't make any sense. Just saying. There's not much of a difference anyway when you think about it. Rolling Stone's calculations tend to emphasize music that's performing well on streaming, while Billboard's include radio airplay. Besides, Billboard wasn't always the same only name in charts. Defunct magazines like Radio and Records and Cashbox once maintained their own unique methodologies too. Yeah, that's true. But they were a little bit different. But again, is there a need for multiple charts here? I don't see where it comes from, because it's not as if radio is making much of a difference in what's being used on the charts in the first place, or how things are being determined by the music industry when it comes to the charts. Most people, if you're in music, you determine what the Billboard chart says, what the Hot 100 says. Listen, the last couple of weeks when Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion had the number one song with WAP, and Cardi B was getting some part of some controversy because of some comments she made politically. Well, either which way, she was promoting the fact all the time that WAP made it to number one. And every time a song does make it number one, listen, when Despacito hit the record back in 16 weeks, or Old Town Road hit 19 weeks at number one, it got press. People actually cared about the song reaching number one for the most amount of times ever. It just happens like that. Now, duplicate charts represent just one of several areas of redundancy created by this new deal, and how the venture chooses to handle them will illustrate its priorities. Now, here's the thing. If you're going to go ahead and consolidate, yes, let's keep some individuality between these two publications. At the least, do that, you corporate suckers. Okay? You leeches. Just saying. It's been nice to be out of that corporate bubble for over 15 years. I tell you, it's been refreshing. But man, I'll tell you what, it's been disappointing altogether to see what's going on constantly since 1996. And it was allowed to happen. I mean, sure, business might get an advantage of it because corporations get bigger, but then again, I want some even playing field. Corporations should have a cap, but they're not for whatever reason. Malanphy says, quote, I don't see any danger that Rolling Stone and Billboard will become one publication. Billboard is the Bible of the music business. Rolling Stone is a consumer-oriented publication with a political side and a pop culture side in addition to all the music it covers. Now, there is a thought there could be a lot of overlap in readership, suggesting that PMRC might consider offering bundle subscriptions. The subscription bundle would ultimately represent less consumer choice, not more. One concern within the industry is that centralization can have a homogenizing effect on coverage, which is what we're getting with radio, because all the music on radio is homogenized. But there is some changes going on. I must make point of that. I'll talk about it a little bit later on. With so many pages and videos to fill, a multi-hyphenate celebrity who can appeal to many different audiences across multiple platforms may seem more attractive than ever. Malanfi pushes back, arguing the music business is just too unpredictable. Consolidation always worries people in terms of how it will hurt small artists, the little guys, so to speak, the indie artists, let's call it that. Quote, as somebody who follows the charts, what's amazing in the last 5 to 10 years is streaming and outside actors like TikTok have started to take over, is that there's more virility, more pleasant randomness than at any time in my memory. You never know what's going to break on TikTok. Roddy Ricch's The Box scored one of the biggest hits of the year with a song that took off because of a noise in the first 10 seconds. There's also a possibility with reduced pressure to compete for readers. Each title can build on its strengths and clear space for deeper reporting. And there's a report that expanded coverage in areas where Rolling Stone and Billboard have traditionally fallen short, like the so-called emerging markets in Asia and Africa. But with so many brands and competing lines of business under this umbrella, it's hard to predict where resources will end up. Well, they might not end up at all. They might get eliminated or shortened down or downsized. This is what's not being talked about. We'll keep an eye on what Rolling Stone and Billboard are going to do. If they stay the same, fine. We might get a little less of the coverage we're normally used to. But, I mean, what are you going to do? Corporations are going to do what corporations are going to do. Just another shot in the arm to the music industry. And really, when you think about these companies and the corporate types that are going to come in now, consolidating their efforts, what artists are going to get left out? And what artists are going to get the press that they shouldn't? Do you understand what I'm saying? There has to be room for new artists to come in. Now, there is with Spotify, Pandora, Apple Music, Amazon Music, sure. But are they going to get the kind of press because of their viral nature from TikTok, from Instagram, from wherever, from Facebook, if they're doing it through music there? Are they going to get the kind of press they need at the right time? And will there be, here's the other thing. Think about it like this. If Rolling Stone wanted to go ahead and cover indie artists like they do now, you know, they want to talk about rock artists and things like that. It feels like the old MTV Rolling Stone when I think about it. It does kind of have that feeling of what MTV was back in the day. The kind of the spirit of the old MTV. But the thing is, are there going to be certain artists that will not get talked about? Will there be certain stories that will not get talked about? I remember when I talked about it not too long ago about how I read a story about Dominican Dembo. You know, the reggaeton and how the Dominican artists have a different style altogether that does not get the play. But even Rolling Stone put a story out about it. And I'm sure there's other stories I've read in the same vein that talk about other things that are going on that Rolling Stone would be the place to go for it. But are those stories going to go by the wayside? And will Billboard also, with the consolidation, will there be certain resources? Will it just be only the charts that matter? Will there be less in terms of what they do with the interviews? Or what they're doing with, you know, the connection with artists? I mean, we don't know. But this should concern everybody on what they're going to do at this point. So I got a couple of stories when it comes to music and radio I want to go and talk about as we go in that direction tonight on the program. So there's another thing I want to go and bring up. Artificial intelligence. AI. I haven't talked about that too much, but there's a story from Fortune.com that says how AI is playing a bigger role in music streaming than you ever imagined. So the story begins behind the scenes of some of the most popular music streaming services. AI is hard at work like an automated DJ, deciding which songs listeners will enjoy. The ability to learn from the listening habits of millions of users across millions of songs has made the software key for nearly every music streaming service today. So now Sonos, they build their own radio service, a streaming service that features third-party radio stations as well as the company's first foray into original music programming. machine learning technology provided by a partner, Super Hi-Fi, they help create a smooth transition between songs. And without it, listeners may end up being annoyed by huge differences in volume between one song and the next. iHeartMedia, which has its own streaming and playlist service, also puts Super Hi-Fi's machine learning to work. Technology prevents brief silence between songs, which could frustrate listeners and cause them to switch to a rival. And Chief Product Officer iHeartMedia says, the greatest sin on radio is to have dead air. Yes. Back when I worked in college radio, this goes back to 1996, when my best friend Adam Shea, I'll shout him out here on the air, when I was working with him and he came on board to help the transition of WOWL AM go to WOWL FM. We moved to the FM dial, 10 watts, up on the top of the FAU library. I put in the new studio that was built out, thanks to him, because the University Center got rebuilt, and so the new studio was created with a good amount of budget that came from the FAU student government. Well, I remember putting a sign up on the wall in the control room, the 3Ds. No distortion, no dead air, and no dirty lyrics or language. And I thought it was very important. I still hold on to that today. I think it's very important when you do programming. That's also 3 good things to put in for podcasting, just to be honest here, if we're going to talk about it. And I think that's good to have, where there's the good segues between songs so the dead air's gone. Not all of that's there for everybody, because obviously we're not seeing that when it comes to, I don't think Apple has that, and I don't believe that Pandora or Amazon Music have that right now. Spotify gives you the chance to go ahead and segue songs because there's a crossfade feature that you can add. And I do put it up to about 8-9 seconds, and it gives me that crossfade like I'll normally get, which doesn't have that jukebox feel where I'm waiting for a song to go and wait for the next song to play. It's kind of nice like that. So I thought it was kind of interesting that we're talking about the role of that, and that's something we're going to start seeing more of, which is pretty cool. I can appreciate that. But now, more into the story of music itself on the radio. Thought this was very important. Sean Ross, who writes for RadioInside.com, put a good article up. His op-ed column talking about the most musically aggressive stations in CHR. Now he says, this is from last week, I've read a lot about the prevailing sort of CHR station of recent years. The station where power rotation contains as many recurrents as currents. So here's the thing. And the stations I hear a lot here, if I put on the FM radio to check out what's going on, yes, there are a lot of songs. When he's talking about power rotation, those are like the newest current songs that are going on. Power rotation means that they're playing the songs between 60 and 100 times a week. Or you're listening to them roughly every 2 to 4 hours. In some cases, most stations that play power, there's the very strict power rotation of the top 5 songs of a contemporary hit radio station, a top 40 mainstream radio station, pop radio. Their top 5 songs are normally played between 90 and 120, 130 times. If you're getting a song played roughly 120 and 130 times a week, that means it's being played every 90 minutes, which is crazy, but that's what they do. I don't even know why they bother to do it, but that is something they do quite often. So let's go into the songs that they're talking about here, because I really think he puts a lot of great points here. Now, he talks about a couple new stations that have launched on the air. One of the things you got to know about as well is this. The fact is, there are quite a few stations that have come on the air in the major markets because there's a lack of genres that are out there for radio stations that might do okay. So, for instance, when we haven't had stations that are R&B related, or, if they're playing like an R&B oldies format, or if they're playing, say, a rock format or an alternative format. There used to be a thing where alternative and album rock used to be two, or active-oriented rock, where used to be 2 standalone genres. And there were dance stations in certain markets that would be that way. Or there would be the rotation of formats that would come up that would just be whatever that flavor of the year is, right? And we went from jammin' oldies to classic hip hop to now 90s music or 80s stations or Jack or whatever there is, right? So some of those stations are not working so well. And for new music, you have CHR. And so some people are just feeling like, let's just get the new music out there. Let's just put CHR on if there's two in the same market. And they basically play the same music. And there's not much difference in either one of them. They're basically just cookie cutter versions of themselves. So again, I'm going to go into radio mode, folks. So just know I might just even pull up a media-based chart and start comparing. So just keep that in mind. So now, Sean writes, increasingly we've seen an odd compromise where Blinding Lights by The Weeknd and Adore You by Harry Styles are in power forever. That means they're always played in the main rotation. And the songs, no matter how old or worn out they've gotten, they just stay up there. And people might get tired of it, but they're going to still see it and hear it. Now, not even so much Adore You, but Harry Styles' Watermelon Sugar has been out there for a long time, okay? Just saying. I look at the current media-based top 40 when it comes to pop. When you look at the songs that have been out there, see, Adore You is still top 10 right now on that chart for top 40, which is crazy. Because when you look at the charts for the Billboard Hot 100 and for how long some of these songs have been out there for a long time. Adore You by Harry Styles, just to give you the context that the Sean Ross is saying right here, the song right now is still in the top 30 because of the radio airplay, all right? And the song currently has been on the chart for 42 weeks. It's been on the entire year. Basically the entire year of 2020. As for Blinding Lights, it still does well when it comes to streaming, and it does do well due to sales. And that song has been on for 43 weeks. Now, I will admit, Blinding Lights for a song, it is one of the few songs that I can still go back and listen to. It still holds very well. So to have that in power, I can understand why. Adore You, not so much. That's also because there's only a certain amount of room for certain songs that are research and audience metric tested that can stay up at their power rotation because they are forced by the vanguards of corporate radio by telling the program directors, which have the individual program directors that have, or music directors, or program directors that have no say as to what songs they're allowed to play, or what songs they're allowed to add, or what songs they're allowed to report. Let's be honest here. That's what's going on. So with that said, Savage Love right now is number one. When you look at the Hot 100, Savage Love is in the chart at number 9 this week, 15 weeks on. So that's on the normal trend. Now, Jason Derulo, the reason why he's up there is because Jason Derulo has already had quite a bit of run. He's a familiar artist that has come back. So there's one thing there. Harry Styles' Watermelon Sugar. That's another song that's been around for a long time. Currently number 8 on the Billboard chart, 27 weeks on. It's a summer song, still lingering around and still there. When you look at Lewis Capaldi, Before You Go, the follow-up to Someone You Loved, it's crazy if you knew how long the song's been out. Now, yes, think of it like this. The song through streaming has probably been around, I can't even think of how long it's been. If I go look at the official chart right now and pull that up, if I look at their chart right now, and I'm going to say to myself, okay, let's look at what we got. Let me give you this as well. When you're looking at the whole thing, Watermelon Sugar by Harry Styles, that song is 33 weeks old in the UK. And the UK official singles chart, that's when the song actually trended on streaming. So the song's been essentially out been 33 weeks. When you look at Adore You on this particular chart for the official chart, it's not even on the chart for the official singles chart. It's already it's past its run. But that song, again, was on for at least 40 weeks. At the least. Adore You. Because that's when Harry Styles' album came out. So think about it like that. Then you look forward down the line, The Baby Rockstar, that song has been out 23 weeks. So again, it's been around for a long time. For there to be power rotation, that's fine. I understand that. That's a song that has been viral. Now, mind you, Rockstar's been around for a long time, and that song, at the same time that Billboard came out with it, was the same time the UK got it. I couldn't tell you how many weeks Rockstar's been on, but I think it's been about 12 weeks or 11 weeks right now. Because remember, it's the 8 to 12 week buffer that corporate radio gives before letting a song make the chart. So Rockstar, Roddy Ricch, the Baby were not artists that were known into the mainstream radio circle. So they waited until the song was bona fide and waited too late as always. Gabby Barrett, I Hope. Now that song has held up for a long time, and that's also is a top 10 song. 39 weeks on. But that's a song that found its way because it's more or less a country song that got more praise and more viral ability because of the fact that the song got featured with Charlie Puth. So it became more of a pop song. And it is a bit of a pop song. And it's a good pop song. So there's that. Plus, you got adult contemporary that's playing it like crazy. You know, it's part of that whole deal. Surf Mason, IOY, I Love You Baby. That song, I'm trying to remember how long that's been around. 18 weeks on this chart, but I've heard this song much longer than that. IOY is not even on the official chart, but that song is at least 6 months old. And farther than that, because it's a dance song, that probably took a long time before it made it to a chart. Let's just be honest. Dua Lipa, Break My Heart is number 8 on the media base. When I look at the Hot 100, 26 weeks on, 6 months on the chart. But again, it's like, it's a top 10 song right now. And it's probably been played over and over. Mood is the most current song right now, but it's such a powerful pop song. You just can't miss on that. But stations have gotten smart. And here's what's going on. Because of the fact that Rockstar got in a little bit early, it might have gotten in a little bit earlier than 12 weeks. Mood has only been out several weeks so far. Now, Mood's been out 7 weeks. And pretty quickly, radio picked on it and jumped up. But really, the other songs that they have, you know, they're working on it, but they are well behind on all of it. BTS Dynamite, they were behind on. And when you look at songs that make their increase up quickly, so like Justin Bieber puts out the song Holy with Chance the Rapper, that song, listen, it's Justin Bieber. So whatever he puts out there, it's going to make a bump up. He's going to go everywhere quick. You look at Media Base, the plays for that song increased 81%. Just tells you everything. It still was the fastest rising song on their chart of their top 50. Just saying. It takes a lot for that to happen. Just how it is. And again, when you look at the media-based chart, you can also see the decrease is very low for songs because the radio stations want to keep playing it, keep it in power rotation, as Sean Ross says. So, for instance, Adore You has only dropped 2.4% this week, but it's still getting 5,000 spins across the board on all the stations. The top song right now, Savage Love, gets 10,000 plays this week. Watermelon Sugar has dropped only 3.9%. The Baby, 1.3%. Those songs, very little eroding of the plays. So they're not dropping out of power rotation, as Sean Ross says. Let's get back to the story. We've seen an odd compromise where Blinding Lights and Adore You stay in power forever. Streaming hits show up faster, but still stay past their seeming freshness state, while mainstream pop titles have just a moment to either muster up or out. He says that there isn't a successful model, a second model for a different type of top 40 station. Well, there is. Play with streaming. Play it first. That's what should happen, but they're not. Now, one of the stations that was competing against KISS 108, the long-standing Boston top 40 station, WXKS, they did have a competitor in AMP 103.3. It's a CBS radio affiliate, now Entercom. But that's gone. The station was aggressively finding the streaming hits, having little apparent impact on that other station because it's a legacy station. Plus, radio is not the place you listen for new hits because it wasn't. The people haven't been trained to do that yet. There aren't a lot of station-level program or music directors known for their enterprise. A few of them have left the format or the business lately as a result of consolidation and cutbacks, which is the point. So he talks about a station in Idaho Falls, which I need to go and check out about myself. KFTZ Z103 in Idaho Falls. They're researching there was a recent article on BTS. Right now, BTS and Dynamite, which is the number one song in the country on Billboard, it is a song that's right now one of the top 5 or 10 songs on that station. More than any other hit radio station in the country. But also got attention because some of the songs that were also in power rotation, and the highest level of rotation, the most played songs on that station. Come and Go by Juice WRLD was in that spot. Heather by Conan Gray, which I don't think anybody's playing right now on CHR, but is a fast-growing song. Kind of has that Gilbert O'Sullivan kind of feel with him. Very interesting, very alternative feel, but it's not a bad song. Laugh Now, Cry Later by Little Drake and Little Durk, which, by the way, Drake, anytime he puts a song up, that should also hit. But a lot of his songs as of late have not hit since God's Plan or Nice for What. Those songs hit, or, In My Feelings. Like, those songs hit huge on CHR. But even that took a little bit of time for it to hit up. But now that song is in one of the most played songs. Then you have, in their first 10 days on the station, you had Hit Different, which was Zav featuring Ty Dolla $ign. That's a new song. It just got added to the chart. It just became a new song on the chart last week, and it got added. Then you have Big Sean and Post Malone's Wolves, the brand new album from Big Sean. That song also just came out 2 weeks ago. And Rod Wave featuring ATR and Sun's Rags to Riches have all gone into a new music rotation 50 to 60 times played a week. Which, remember, the top songs are played up to about 100 times a week. So this station is definitely going for the streaming audience. I'd like to see where these ratings for this station go, if it would work. Because maybe there's other people who will see that. Now, Z103, Victor Wilt, is the program director, music director. He's been there since March. He's seen the cluster of an active rock station and a country station there in his market. He says he's concentrating on keeping the station as current as possible with what's happening in real time, more influenced by streaming and sales than national charts. And he's also said they're soliciting new picks from listeners, new music picks. This is what used to happen years ago. This is an old style format. You play the hits. You play what's real time playing now. You play with what the charts play. If it's on Billboard, if it's streaming, you play it. But they don't do that, do they? With that said, the intent is new streaming era paradigm, although you could also view their station's musical aggressiveness as you would have expected to hear on a smaller market CHR at one time. So when the other smaller stations, they're going to take more risks because they are the one-stop shop for hit radio in a market. Just saying. So they show the current list of songs that were played during an hour of music on September 22nd. So on the songs here, you have a little bit of recurrence, some songs that are definitely, you know what they are, with some new music. AJR and Bang, that's a current song that's in the lower end of the Hot 100. Pretty popular on the alternative end. Lizzo, Truth Hurts, which is a former number one song, so it's a gold. BTS and Dynamite, which is the number one song in the country, as we said. Tate McRae, Broke Me First. I believe that's a top 30 song right now. Macklemore, Ryan Lewis, Can't Hold Us, former number one. I think it was number one song. Oh, God, was it 2010, 2011, I think it was? Drake, Little Durk, Laugh Now, Cry Later. They did their top 5 at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And the top 5 songs, Drake, Little Durk, Laugh Now, Cry Later. Marshmello and Demi Lovato, Okay Not To Be Okay, which is a new song that actually launched last week. Justin Bieber, Chance the Rapper, Holy, brand new song. Cardigan by Taylor Swift, that's just a perennial that's out there that is very popular. And their number one song is Little Baby, Emotionally Scarred. That's a pretty current song that is charting for streaming purposes, but nothing more. Pretty interesting. Then you go ahead and continue the hour with Pharrell Williams and Happy. That's a perennial gold. Billie Eilish and My Future. AWOL Nation and Sail. I don't even know what that song is. I got to go look at it. Roxanne by Arizona Zervas. That's a gold from earlier this year. Savage Love, which is also current media-based number one, current top 10 on Billboard. Post Malone Circles, which has been around forever thanks to radio and to continued streaming, because Post Malone Circles, much like Blinding Lights, that just has staying power. I don't know how it is, but it works. Those two songs for me, they just don't get old to me. That's very hard to do these days in music. Beyonce, Crazy in Love, that's a pretty old gold song right there. And Harry Styles, Watermelon Sugar. They took another station, which is KGSR, Star 93.3 in Austin, Texas. That station just got changed. Jay Michaels is the person that's running it there. He was most popular for the 1990s version of KRBE Houston, one of the great music discovery CHRs, which was a great station. I remember listening to KRBE. It was one of the first stations I could hear streaming back in the day. 104 KRBE, I believe it is. His hiring is a rare case of an enterprise programmer actually returning to the format. The station right now is heavily current with only 1 to 2 recurrent or recent golds, 1 per hour. This is what used to be what the Power Pig used to do. A station I used to listen to a lot back in the 90s, which I wasn't even in my town, but I listened to it a lot. And my thing was, it was just incredible. It's just the way it's set. So now, one of their trademark things they do as well is they do TikTok on the 10s. It's a stage for new music. So they showcase songs that are 15 to 20 times played a week, but a deep stack of new titles. And not exactly what every CHR is playing now. So you got Machine Gun Kelly's My Ex's Best Friend, to James Bay's Chew on My Heart. I haven't heard that one. And Katy Perry's Cry About It Later, which is not even yet officially a single in this current era for her new album. What's it called? No, it's not Daisies. What is it? I don't remember the name of it now. And the Billy Joel remake of I Think We're Alone Now. That's also added into their list. And on their current list, September 21st, right around the 4 o'clock hour, Afternoon Drive, Savage Love, Rain on Me, current song that's in the top 20, into the top 30 now. Laugh Now, Cry Later. You have B. Miller, Feel Something, which is one of their TikTok feature songs, one of the brand new songs that's just getting showcased. Watermelon Sugar, Rebuild Bad Boys for Life. That's a gold song that's going back to February. Sam Smith Diamonds is a brand new song that just launched last week. Post Malone Better Now, that's a song for 2019, a gold. Gabby Barrett, I hope, that's the current top 10. Miley Cyrus, Midnight Sky, prominent artist, top 30 single. Trevor Daniel Falling, which was a top 10 song earlier this year, gold. ILY, which is, where it is right now. It's just a song that just radio wants to play higher up for whatever reason. Circles, Rockstar, Un Dia, which is a reggaeton version with Dua Lipa, J Balvin, Dua Lipa, Bad Bunny, and Tiny. That's a song that's been played on some crossover stations and mostly Spanish stations, but a little bit of where you're hearing in other markets. But again, Texas, you can understand where some songs that might have a Spanish crossover might get some appeal. Come and Go, Be Like That, that's Kane Brown, Sway Lee and Khalid. Dua Lipa, Break My Heart, and Let's Love by David Guetta and Sia. So again, very interesting how they set up their songs, how they put them together. My thing is, this has to be a trend. Music, radio, and musicians should get together back on this. Like, there should be an engagement by the music industry with this. And artists should go ahead and reach out to their listener base, to their fans, get them to go back to engaging radio. Because the more outlets that musicians have, listen, you're not going to get so much from television or other places. You're only going to get so much play. You need to get more people listening to your songs. Radio could be that outlet again. And if you want to make radio something important again, it's done in the UK. The UK, there's a lot of artists that care about what's on the chart. They care what's on the radio. The US has been neglecting music for a long time on the radio. Too long for my taste. So I like the story being brought up here. It's very important. One other thing I want to talk about when it comes to music, which is also a reason why we're hearing more music that's current. And because of the fact of the matter is that if streaming is not going to do it and sales are not going to do it so much, K-pop is finding room in radio, and it could create a renaissance for radio and also help out with the music industry. So BTS has been the talk. Their new album came out. The lead single, Dynamite, that's hitting a lot. Variety.com writes a story how BTS and its ARMY could change the music industry, because this is the latest group that is really getting idol worship. They are the boy band right now that everybody's listening to. That a lot of people, a lot of young girls and a lot of people are listening to right now. There's an ARMY, as they call it. The global brigade of BTS acolytes is collectively known by the acronym ARMY, short for Adorable Representative MC for Youth. It's a moniker chosen by their record label, Big Hit Entertainment. A Twitter audience of 29.2 million followers strong. Listen, if those guys wanted to get on radio, that would get radio back to relevancy. So you want to play BTS on your station if they're able to bring an audience. And if they know that if people that listen to those stations, if they know that BTS's songs are going to be played on there, and maybe some other K-pop artists in the same vein, then do it. For any stations that are not playing BTS Dynamite right now in power rotation, they are out of their minds. Let's just say it like that. And that goes for others. BTS Instagram presence is 30.6 million followers, also rising rapidly. The only other K-pop group that is staying with them is Blackpink. There's a song called Ice Cream with Selena Gomez, 29.3 million Instagram followers. Because of BTS and their success, they've been able to drive Big Hit Entertainment to launch an IPO in October, which is projected to raise $811 million. And each BTS member will be awarded shares worth approximately $8 million each. Crazy. Of their revenue, 2019, 97% of their revenue was by BTS, including $130 million worth of t-shirts, cosmetics, dolls, and other merchandise. That is crazy. There's nobody else like that right now. No one has that kind of pull right now. There are singles artists, but not a group like this that has so much there. The song has already sold 700,000 adjusted song units since its release, gold certified by the RIA. It's becoming the band's biggest radio hit to date without a featured artist. It's worth noting. So again, they had featured artists in previous songs. They had one last year with Halsey. And it got some play, but nothing to where it is now. This is a Dynamite song. It is a song they did it all in English, and it's making a dent right now. Now, they are not looking to split up at all. Think about it like this. BTS actually does everything together. The members share single collective Twitter and Instagram accounts and even release solo material through their shared channel. Accomplishments are never spoken of as belonging to one group member, but as rather the work of the team and, of course, the ARMY. In their videos, they often begin in solo shots but end up together. That's probably much of the record label that probably does that. But again, you have other boy bands from the Western end, Western Hemisphere, New Edition, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, whatever, all proffered star frontmen. So there's no frontman for BTS, not at all. The name BTS stands for Beyond the Scene, an invitation to fans to join them off stage via almost daily video content featuring moments in their intimate, if immaculately curated private lives on YouTube, Twitter, and the big hit app Weverse. Quite a thing. Again, who else in music's doing this? Not much. Now, as for the song and getting it pushed to radio and getting it pushed virally to get number one like it did, Big Hit worked with Columbia Records to further cultivate. And then the song was being pushed through Columbia. And their head of promotion, Peter Gray, who had broken hits for Dua Lipa, Kelly Clarkson, and Kings Leon, informed and overseen the years of management's having a big hit. Radio exposure is not considered as impactful in the U.S., in the Korea as it is in the U.S., but BTS maybe naively didn't hit the ground in the U.S. thinking who could boost our airplay the last time around. But now the band has 100% trust in Columbia, Big Hit, and the greater BTS community, ARMY, and the label are all trying their best. The goal is to try to show ourselves and expose ourselves to ARMY as much as possible. There are a lot of platforms now. What also helped is they did a little bit of work in terms of PR. The group and their label donated $1 million to Black Lives Matter. And then BTS fans quickly flocked to hashtag #MatchAMillion through a link sent out by the fan charity Twitter account @OneAndAnArmy. and they hit the financial target in 25 hours. That tells you everything. A loyal fan base, radio, you need to be in on this. Just you have to. It's obvious it's working. They also have a continued campaign with UNICEF to end child violence, and they're reticent to become global activists. One of the members, Suga, says, I don't consider ourselves as political. We aren't trying to send out some grandiose message. We would never see Army as a conduit for our voice or our opinion. Army speaks their own initiatives, and we always respect their opinions as we respect any other person's. Smart. No politics. You want to do good things and be, philanthropic? By all means, yes. But yeah, no politics. We don't need another Rock or another Kevin Hart or whoever else that wants to inject politics into what they do. It's not what we want to hear you for. And I'm not here to be political at all. I'm just saying, why talk politics? Is that what you're good at? Is that why we watch you in your movies and your comedy specials and your TV appearances? Is that why we watch you? No. So why do you offer it when you think when you offer nothing in terms of experience or understanding? You could have an opinion, but you do understand the level of what your opinion weighs because of your celebrity status, which you were given by the people that supported you, your fans. And for some of them, you might be abandoning them. Just realize that. So there's a lot more to be said about this. But again, this is where radio is important. And this is where groups like BTS are changing the narrative. That's very important. Now I was going to bring up stuff about movie theaters reducing hours as Hollywood blockbusters are delayed, but I'm going to leave that for the When I'm Not Podcasting series for later this weekend, which you can find at youtube.com/JBRASCO951. Also, another story I'm going to bring up about the metaphysics of modern, same as the old media. I'm going to leave that also for When I'm Not Podcasting. Just two stories I don't want to bring up for this because we're already running up to the hour that I wanted to do tonight. One other story I do want to talk about, which is in the labor unions of Hollywood. That's one thing I've been following along. There is a story that's come up from Deadline.com. The Writers Guild is outlining the next step in separate negotiations with talent agency CAA and WME over the franchise agreement, which is the packaging fees. So WGA is talking with these two agencies, the two major of the big four talent agencies, in their 18-month standoff over packaging fees and the agency's affiliations with corporately related production entities. CAA says it has accepted the Guild's terms, except for a couple of points having to do with WIIP, but the Guild said that there was no deal because CAA has proposed changes to the agreements that the WGA has not and cannot agree to. So they have a couple of things that are still demands to make the deals official. It's the agencies and their current and the resters' current ownership of affiliated production entities, their current direct or indirect ownership of the agencies and the agreements that govern the relationship with entities such as Silver Lake and TPG, copies of existing agreements between any affiliate production entity and its indirect or direct owners, and copies of any certificates or incorporation or corporate bylaws or similar documents of the affiliated production entity. So again, there's red tape that needs to be cleared up. There you go. We'll keep an eye on all that for all of you. In the meantime, that's going to do it for the show right now. We're going to leave it there. Thank you again for listening, as you always do. Great stuff. Time for me to go ahead and jump out. Back with another Broadcasters Podcast next week. Until then, remember, content is king, and the control of your content is in your hands.
Thank you for listening to the Broadcasters Podcast, presented by BroadcastersPodcast.com and KingofPodcasts.com. The Broadcasters Podcast is brought to you by KingofPodcasts.com/Amazon. If Amazon is good enough for the King of Podcasts, it most certainly is good for you. KingofPodcasts.com/Amazon. And don't forget to check out the King of Podcasts wrestling program. The Wrestling is Real podcast, exclusively at KingofPodcasts.com.